is your biggest goal?
Music, I can express myself, and then I can uplift others with my expressions.
Share this gift. Everyone has a gift from the universe. Life is more beautiful.
And what's your talent?
My favorite types of people are people who have gone through something and came out on top.
Where all this strength come from?
They discovered me.
If you think you're working hard, then work hard.
We call our clients VIFs, very important friend. It's all about the experience.
I never thought that today do an interview for them is very rewarding.
Without the help of the creator, I would not even exist. It's all due to him. Life is
It's a week.
Life is life.
Make it happen. I'm going to put you in a spot.
Yeah.
Rap for us.
It's important to bring people together.
Connection based on success.
Lais, out here in L.A.
Treasure from Brazil. You're it.
I'm available 24 hours. Here for you. It's getting better. It's not easy.
Obrigado.
Thank you so much for having us here at your house.
To you, my friend, I wish you all the happiness and success. Let's go back to the interview.
Thank you for joining us in our Season 5. Today we have a very special guest who made his identity as a writer, publisher, and illustrator at age 22. Started at 14. He's a dreamer. He's an inspiration. We're very pleased to announce Sebastian Schug. Sebastian, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Animation, how did this passion begin?
My passion in animation began when I was a sophomore in high school, so I was about 14, and it was really the art form that I really wanted to dabble into. I had many experiences working at my school as well as working on other projects outside of school. Turns out animation wasn't something that I ultimately stuck with, but I retained that information as I went on into what I do now.
Beautiful. And what a chance you had worked at Nickelodeon's studio in Burbank.
Yes. So I was under the mentorship of an animator by the name of Jason Myers. He worked on several shows like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and he really took me under his wing, teaching me the basics of animation, as well as more so working in a company setting, which is ultimately what I decided not to do, but it was a great learning experience.
Beautiful. Writing is a talent, is a gift.
It is.
And how do you keep the balance in between your originality to what the readers want?
Well, in the beginning, I wanted to draw pictures, and when it came down to animation, it was something that I could do expressively while telling a story. Now, when I found out that telling a story didn't have to include pictures in it, what I found out was that I could just write a novel on its own. When I was hired as an illustrator at 14, it was all pictures. I wasn't telling a story. When I merged into storytelling and in the process comics and things like that, that is when I began to find that passion for writing. I found the passion to mostly experiment, and I've loved it ever since. I really have.
Your emotions are related to writing so much. Art is emotion.
Oh, of course.
How do you deal and how do you add those beautiful words? And I mean, how do you, the question is, how do you deal with those emotions into words?
Right. So I take pride in letting my emotions play out from my day-to-day life. So certain experiences, certain people, certain circumstances that I'm in, whether I feel strongly about an issue or I'm recounting my time spent with friends, peers, family, like experiences that have really taken an effect on me, I'll usually write to convey those emotions. I like to think that I have a very distinct writing style, but I know that I need to be emotional when I can't be. So I really let sort of the words speak for me in that regard.
How was the reaction of your parents when you first published your book?
I think a lot of parents think that their kids have to go into something practical because it either makes them a lot of money or it's just something that isn't so much in the artistic field, because the artistic field is very volatile. There's no security in it anymore. Now, when I got my first gig at 14, being an illustrator for the children's series, The Adventures of Daniel, starting off at a young age, it was that sense of security. It was that in, so to speak. My parents were, of course, very supportive of me, and even throughout college, I never stopped publishing or writing or illustrating. So through that, I was able to grow my talents and to expand beyond that. I think that really gave them more of a sense of security because I was going to school for something that I initially wanted to learn in the first place. So.
And the consistency too, right?
Exactly. It's great to just continually practice as well as just go for it. My motto is just start and work on that project, even if you don't like it, because it's great practice.
And where all this inspiration come from?
My inspiration primarily comes from the people around me. So my friends, family, people who are closest to me. I utilize their experiences and I craft them into my own stories. I feel like it's more personable that way, and I also feel that it's more relatable. It's something that I experienced, and it's something that I want to talk about and recall in this way. So.
Do you read your reviews?
Oh, I read my reviews. Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
The positive reviews are obviously something that's, I look forward to reading them, and that's great. When it comes to negative reviews or constructive criticism, of course, there's that little inclination that, it was written in the best possible judgment that it could have been, and I know not to take it to heart. I used to, and that's something that I regret, but needless to say, I've matured from that. So I love reading reviews, positive and negative, and it further hones my craft of something that I need to either practice on or continue on, as I've been doing.
Consider it's part of the job.
It is. It's definitely part of the job. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So.
What is success for Sebastian?
Success for me is being able to wake up every morning and realize that what I love to do is something that will never leave me. Regardless of the fact that I earn any money off of publishing, so to speak, and it wasn't like that in the beginning, so it was very disheartening the first couple of years. I love doing it. I love publishing in many different mediums, and that is why my company, Sebastian Schug Publishing, is multimedia, because there isn't one form of medium, whether it be digital or traditional, that I wouldn't want to tackle. I'd love to tackle it all if I can, and I'm glad to say that I have.
No, and writing can be draining and stressful when dealing with a time frame.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
And what I advise you to give to the aspiring writers out there when it comes to how to keep it up with the good work and the labor of excellent job.
When it comes to burnout, as I've eloquently put it, it gets very jaded working on one project at a time. It may seem a little counterintuitive what I'm about to say, but I like to procrastinate with many different projects. I like to be working on many different projects at a time, so that way I can hop from one to the other without it feeling draining, because it's something new and stimulating to work on. When it comes down to the time constraints, or if I'm under contract, obviously that's something that I can't ignore. I have to get it done under a certain time frame, and personally, I like to go headfirst into it, doing the most amount of work as possible to have a rough outline so that I can say that I've done something. When I go back into it, I'll usually take a break for maybe a day or two. I can really go back into it with a fresh mind and understand what needs to be changed, what needs to be added, or what needs to just be thrown away completely. And I find that taking breaks is it helps. As much as artists would say that it doesn't, because they just want to finish their work, it does help.
You have to find what works for you.
Exactly.
Multitask and have different ideas, different projects.
Very much so.
And what's your favorite part in all this journey?
My favorite part of the work is, ironically, putting it together. I know a lot of people would rather have an idea and then have it made so that people can see it, but nobody wants to talk about the process going into it. And the process going into it is my favorite part because that is where obviously I have the most creative control. Now, if I'm working with a client, that's obviously changed because I have to work under their constraints, how they want it to work. But even then, I'll add my personable touches here and there, and I would treat the project as if it was my own, so to speak.
What advice would you give to children and teenagers out there when they want to follow you?
When they want to start? So when they want to start, I would recommend them just start. It's very easy to let one's own self-consciousness and doubt get in the way of starting a project because the expectation is that either it won't sell, or it'll put them in a negative light, or it won't live up to the expectations of their initial thought process. And to that, I have to respond with, some of my worst work is still available for sale. People can buy it right now, and of course I would cringe over it, but it's something that I look at as a progression meter. It's something that I can look at and say, I've gotten better since then. So I would never delete my old work because it's where I've come from. It's a piece of me that'll never be erased, so to speak.
There's always audience for each work,
yes.
Right? There are so many tastes out there.
Yes. I'm glad to be the type of person that can experiment and find mutual success in that, you know. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's an experiment. I try again.
Well, because many people also wait to the perfect job to be released, right?
There is no perfect time. And I'm glad to know that I can work regardless of that. I've written books when I've been at my highest and when I've been at my lowest. You know, not so much written books as well as just produced overall content. And I think it really goes to show that your emotions and your livelihood reflect in that work. So it's good to see that balance.
In one of your publications, 10 theories of help me on this name and this title, Sebastian.
10 theories any self-righteous art major would find interesting. That was
What's your favorite theory out there?
Well, truthfully, I wrote that book satirically. I wrote that book specifically to make fun of a certain demographic of people who let their artistry get the better of them. There are people like that, and I'm not going on the attack. You know, I'm not saying anything mean. It's more of a artistic stereotype that I like to poke fun at. People who get too full of themselves.
Please keep doing it.
Yeah. No, it's fun to do because it's stimulating to look at someone, whether it be a person or a group of people, who dabble into a medium and think that they're the best when really nobody is.
Yeah, they probably don't know what they do.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Yes,
you know, it's why I quit being an art major in college. I saw what the talent that people had did to some people, and it's not all glamour. You know, it's not all that glitters is not gold.
So what's your favorite theory?
My favorite theory of that book would have to be the theory of, I want to say, postmodernism. So postmodernism is an artistic movement, and I'm paraphrasing. So forgive me if I'm getting a few things wrong, but the way how I've interpreted postmodernism is an artistic movement that really is no hands barred. Anyone can do whatever they want artistically, and people will like it. You could think of this as abstract art. Now, as someone who's grown up with a lot of abstract art, it made me realize what I can and can't get away with when I experiment, and turns out you can get away with a lot.
Thank you, right?
Yes.
Lucky us.
I would say, though, however, that doesn't always translate into it being good work, and that's just my opinion, because I personally think that there are a lot better pieces, you know, like artistically, that are shown in museums and are shown in galleries that you can effectively study and analyze. I'm not saying that someone like Jackson Pollock is not an artist, because he is in his own right. But when I look at an art piece, I look at it with some level of exclusivity as this is something that someone painted. And if it's replicated, what does that do to the value of the project? You know, if that makes any sense. So I hope that answers your question.
It does. And you mentioned out there as well in the same publication, the universe is running out of energy.
It very much is.
Yes.
That
was more about it and what can be done.
In the arts, I feel that there is a very large oversaturation of it. Now, when you look at something that is being replicated, repeated, duplicated, or in any sense of the word being added onto for commentary, which is ironically what I use when it comes to satire and commentary, you see a lot of pieces that reflect more or less the same message of what the original artist intended to be. Now, I'm not saying that that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I feel that in the world, you know, the universe is running dry. It's very much something that is lacking new material to comment on. Going to college, analyzing artistic pieces and their cultural significance, it was very, I don't want to say it was very easy being the smartest person in the room, you know, having had a background in the arts, but it was very easy to analyze, conceptualize, and theorize what a piece meant and have individuals utilize my response for their response. So there was nothing new added, so to speak. I'm not saying I'm bitter about that, but I will say that in the arts, it's very easy to piggyback and, you know, essentially do that. Is it a bad thing? No. I think that a lot of great ideas come from the dialogue that other artists have. But what I will say is that there is a decline of sort of individuality when it comes to creating new work.
I believe you.
Right. Thank you.
And because it's easier to follow others than create your own stuff.
It is.
People are concerned to judge it.
Yes. Yeah, it's a very fine line that artists walk on, where is it better to not so much steal someone's work, but to commentate it in their own perspective, or try to be a trailblazer and make something new? Most people would choose the former because something has already been set in stone to talk about, to have a dialogue on. As an artist, it's also very hard to establish that artistic identity, to make something that a lot of people will just immediately like. So, yeah, it is a touchy subject.
And also, according to solipsism, it's actually one of my favorites out there. That we actually have our own thoughts, and that's what exists.
Exactly.
What advice can you say to people to empower one's thoughts?
I would say that when it comes down to utilizing one's own thoughts in an artistic sphere, and unfortunately this is where I think a lot of artists lack, is the ability to distribute that idea. I know a lot of people, specifically a lot of young artists that I primarily went to high school with, that would create something and have it be their own thoughts and own imaginative sense, but have no way to show it to people outside of their friend group, maybe their family group. But in the age of the arts, unfortunately, time is money. They would rather sell that idea and would have no means to do so. I consider myself very blessed because I fell into publishing through illustration and realized that there is a substantial way to both grow an audience and make a profit off of doing so. Now, the latter, making a profit, was never my initial intention, and it still isn't, because regardless of the circumstances, as I said before, I would still be doing this no matter what. Now, I feel that a lot of people are lacking that distribution platform, or, to have a leg into the industry. And I think after doing a little bit of research, people would find that it's easier to do so than one would think. And like I also said before, the ability to surrender that self-doubt and that self-consciousness in order to do that, in order to put it in front of an audience with, an audience that people wouldn't expect, I think that's very important.
You also have to believe in yourself, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is the TLDR, because it's crucial to think that it's important to think that your idea is good first and foremost. It's another if you suddenly flip it on its head and be like, oh no, my idea isn't good because people may not like it. It's like, no, you have to have that mentality throughout. So
they don't know sometimes, right? You just have to tell them
they
what
don't,
exists.
or they get scared, simply put. And that's unfortunate, but it is something that when you transition from arts to business, you naturally have to let that subside. So.
What's your favorite book and author?
My favorite book of all time would have to be Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. It's a very dystopian-esque novel, very much borrowed from Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged, which used to be my favorite book until I saw the length of it. Now, I'm very much, like I said before, I'm very much into commentary, into satire, and more so into the downward decline of what makes us human so that you can effectively analyze it.
What makes us human?
Our mistakes. Our mistakes and our self-doubts and essentially our errors that I feel like when we're gone, the next generation can comment on and realize what we need to do to fix ourselves. So I don't mean to speak philosophically, but it is a great conversation to be in, especially either when you're in an English class or when you're talking with friends. I feel like a lot of people don't address this as much as they probably would like to.
I read you are related to Mark Twain. Is that right?
I am related to Mark
famous
Twain.
Mark Twain. Oh my God!
Biologically, on my father's side, I am related to Samuel Clemens, his real name. Mark Twain is his pen name. And when I found that out, it was very much a coincidence. I believe truly that it's sort of been vicariously lived through, where satire is my number one genre, commentary of humanity and humanity's ups and downs. It's something that I've taken interest in, and while I feel like I'll never be as good as my late distant cousin, because that's who he is technically in my family tree, it's a tall order, but also it's not something that I would want to fill the shoes of, because part of being an artist is establishing your own identity and doing what you feel is best in the society that you live in. So.
Beautiful said. Thank you. And 3 words that would describe Sebastian Schug.
Determined, compassionate, and I think in sort of a stab in the back to myself, sometimes egotistical. And, I'm saying this not as someone who wants to humble himself, although I hope I do, but as an artist, and especially as someone who has dabbled in that, it's very easy to be that most interesting person in the room when you are the only one of your craft doing so. In high school, I was the only senior on campus who was publishing material of any kind. And this started way back when I was a sophomore, when I was actually first starting to publish. It's very easy to let that big-headedness get to you, and unfortunately, it did. Needless to say, it ruined some relationships, it ruined some friendships, and I feel like that is the human experience of making those mistakes and realizing where you can and can't go from there. And I'm glad that I made those mistakes. I'm glad that I had that phase. Do I wish that I was the same way that I was before? Absolutely not, because I realized that that's a very dark road that I would rather not put myself on. And I know a lot of artists succeed in having that I can't be touched, but personally it's not for me. I'm not that type of person where I can just spearhead, step on other people's toes, or, you know, blatantly disregard them. You know, that's not who I am, even though, unfortunately, that's who I was. So,
Your writing process could be categorized in a movie. What would be the title?
Categorized in a movie title, it's a tough thing to summarize, but I would say I would have to relay it to one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite biopics of L.A.I.S. Can You Ever Forgive Me? It's a story about an author, a previously accomplished author, who had to resort to committing literary forgery in order to sustain her writing career. I'm not saying I would ever go down that road, but I would say that in the arts, in the society that we are in, artistically, if I were to come up with a title, it would be Realize What You're Getting Into.
And what is the most important thing to know when writing, starting a new process, starting a new project?
The most important process, or the most important step in that process, is to make sure that you are ready to do this, that you are ready to commit yourself to this project from start to finish, and realize that the downs are going to outweigh the ups, and that the crippling anxiety or self-loathing or, you know, just artistic turmoil that you will ultimately face of looking at your work and saying it's not good, people are not going to like this, is something that needs to be cast aside. At the end of the day, you still may not like your project. And like I said before, I still don't in some cases, but it's something that, believe me, that will pass, the emotions will pass, and the sense of pride will wash over you as someone who actually finished what one started.
You have to be proud of yourself,
of course,
right?
Of course. Without pride, and not pride in the I'm better than you sense, but without pride, there is no product.
Where can people contact you? How can people reach you out?
So people can contact me directly via telephone or via email. Email is obviously preferred, but as more of a landing page, my website, sebastianrschug.com, it showcases all of my projects in a very static layout, so you can check out publishing, film, audio projects that I've worked on, and you can find my information through there. It's very easy to get in touch with me, so shoot me an email and we can discuss about projects or about any kind of potential manuscripts that want to be published.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sebastian, for joining us.
Thank you.
Such an inspiration, dreamer. I love it. I've learned a lot. And thank you for having us here in your place. Thank you.
So much. Thank you.
Thank you, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, Lais. Yeah, bring your levels up a little bit.
For me to do that as well. So.
We're gonna do one more for this question just because of the fly.
Hold on a second. Can I swat your arm?
Go ahead.
Is he on there?
Go ahead. I'm strong.
He's gone. No, he's not. Get him?
No, it's there. It's there.
Yeah. This is hilarious. I'm actually letting this record. So right now.
Yeah, because this is behind the scenes. Yeah.
So we're actually 15 minutes into it right now. So we have time. You get him?
No, right there.
He's gonna be flying everywhere. Lais.
Right?
I do, yeah. I really just let my body.
Yeah, I want to say it's okay to shift. It's but I want to say shift towards the interviewee next time.
Okay.
You know, shift out of frame. All right.
Guys like it?
Yes.